Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Dharma Funder. Dharma is an expert at helping high-achieving leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals overcome the biggest challenges facing them and their business, not by going outward, but by going inward. And deeper than just any kind of therapist or coach might go, she works on a nervous system level, applying very simple but very powerful practices and processes to help move through things and open up your nervous system to success. The nervous system has been a really big point of conversation in a lot of the work that I've been doing and things that I have been learning about recently. And I feel that it is a barometer for success. The better that you can keep your nervous system calm, the better that you can make decisions, the better that you can lead, the better that you can grow. So this is a really powerful episode. And without any further ado, let's hand it over to Dharma. Dharma Funder, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too. Now, to kick things off, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and some of the magic that you do to our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Of course. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Well, my name is Dharma Funder, and who I am is really a reflection of the journey that I want you to experience. The value that I offer in what I am doing is not mine to keep, but for you to live. It's what I'm doing and how I'm showing up today is giving you an insight and a beacon of what it is possible to do in life today, no matter what's going on. So look at it almost like a hurricane. You have the center of the hurricane, it's completely still. That is your inner peace, that is your inner resilience, that is your core self-centered, not in a negative way, but in a positive, that you know you can trust yourself. And no matter what is happening in the world, you stay in your center and you engage. So you respond instead of reacting.
Absolutely. And there are so many challenges to this, both around us and outside of us, all around the world, in the country, and I think most of all inside of us. Not just what's happening in our minds, but even things like our physical bodies. I have a lot of personal experience in sometimes when my biology isn't in alignment, my mind will make up stories about what that anxiety feels like and why it's happening, which is almost never the real reason why it's happening. And so to have this mastery of the storms, like your metaphor, of what's happening both inside us and outside us, and having that peace, I think is something that really, when it boils down to it, most entrepreneurs and leaders are really seeking when they're expanding their success. But we mistake it for goals or KPIs or anything like that, when the end result or the end feeling that we're really hoping for and building for is just what you said.
Yes, we are striving for an outside validation. What is driving us, it comes from childhood, school, everything is based upon, you have to do this in order for you to be approved of. You need to accomplish this in order for you to get the accolades or the celebration or anything. So we continuously still strive for an outside validation. To your point, if I have an ROI that is really good, but everything else is falling apart, then it doesn't matter. The success is not there. You can have the millions of dollars in your life, but you're not going to be happy anyway because you're not happy on the inside. And that's the disconnect. When you look at anyone and they enter the room and they have this internal peace and they have the success, we all pause. We see, and they haven't said a word, and we notice because their energy reflects this confidence, this self-reliance that we so desperately are needing, and we want what they have. And what they have is exactly to your point, not something you find on the outside, but it is inside. And that's the journey.
So this sounds like a concept that's universal to almost anyone around the world could embrace and apply ideas like this. And I'm curious because how it gets applied or the challenges to it will be very different from person to person. Can you tell me a little bit about who particularly you work with and what some of the symptoms of their challenges and being out of alignment really look like?
Well, I can't say that it's only one kind of target because it could be anyone. It can be a 16-year-old who's had an experience. They are going through maybe being bullied in school. They end up with anorexia. They end up with some eating disorders or whatever it may be. And that's one part of it. Another part of it will be, I think, going through my repertoire of clients, I have one who is, she's a dancer, very professional, famous, and she wasn't barely able to stand up and get up on stage because the anxiety had completely hijacked the nervous system. Then you have the other side of the spectrum, a family father losing a daughter. How do you show up in life? To really having a leader within an organization with a high turnover, alienating themselves from their team, from their supervisors, and it turns out to be a hostile work environment because they end up snapping because they're so disconnected. And the other part that you were asking is that yes, it is literally anyone in the world who can benefit from this. And the journey is inward. It is a gentle approach. It is not head on. It's not like taking the bull by the horn. That's not the journey.
Absolutely. And while anyone can benefit from this, us as high quality practitioners, and though we have a heart that would want to serve everyone in the world, being really clear on the people that we can best serve and best make an impact with the tools that we have is really important clarity. And from our conversations before, while these are topics that we hear many people talking about or musing about on social media, you have built a reputation and a business that serves the very highest level minds and leaders with these core problems. Can you tell us a bit about the process of really reaching some of the highest achievers in the world and how you have built this brand and business?
Literally reputation, because when you deliver a process that works, they're going to talk about it. And working with CEOs, leaders, high achievers, really these individuals who really needs to deliver, is like they have companies depending upon them, they have families. And think of it this way: you are a CEO, you have 10 people reporting to you. 10 people times 2 if they have a partner, times 4 if they actually have a family. All of a sudden you have 40 people depending upon you. That multiplied down into the departments, and all of a sudden you're going to have 500 people depending upon you. That is a lot of responsibility. The pressure of showing up authentically is easily lost because everybody wants something. And when you lean into really showing up, when we're looking on the outside, it shows up as anxiety, it shows up as a snapping, it shows up as anger, it's pushing, it is blaming, and it's always about you got to do better. What I help you do is that I turn it around and removing the pressure of we have to do better and take on the accountability for ourselves. I need to do better. I need to delegate better. I need to show up more authentically. I need to share my vision, my mission, my goals, but not just the data. I gotta share the soul. I gotta share the soul of what my idea is. If I were to share the soul of my vision for what is in my company, my employees are motivated by it. They strive for it. So what happens within a leader when they start to really own themselves, how they show up. I'm a father, I'm a spouse, I'm a lover, I'm a friend, I'm a partner, I am an entrepreneur. And I've got the curiosity to really listen, to explore, to make mistakes, use the mistakes to do better. The company, everybody starts to feel safe. Everybody starts to relax. Because if my boss can make a mistake and I know it's okay and I can learn from it, all of a sudden I'm going to start to relax and say, okay, I can do this. And there is such a drive behind the curiosity of a childlike motivation. Never thought twice about learning how to walk, did we? Never. We just did it. We fell, we got back up, and we kept going. We found a different way of getting it done. Oh, it doesn't work that way. And you just kind of light up and you're like, oh, I can do this. And all of a sudden, people gather around and wants to be part of it because the energy that comes from the leader becomes infectious, invigorating, inspiring, motivating. People want to show up for that. People want to perform for that. And that's what changes everything. And it's not just at work, it's personal, it's in your relationships, your friendships. It literally permeates all the way through. And all you did was to start in here.
One of the things that I think is unique about your process and what you do, that I've heard you say before off the call, and I'd love to explore here, is this isn't just work in a mindset. And changing our mindset is something that we often say to ourselves, I need to have a better mindset. I need to think better. And it's kind of the same thing as I need to do better. And a lot of the times it has that same foundation that got a lot of us to where we are, which is grinding hard, pushing through the pain, working harder through things, and trying to apply that to how we relate to ourselves. But you have a different way of going deeper. Can you explain to us a little bit about what that is?
Yes. It is a nervous system regulation. I help you bypass the narrative like you're talking about, is that we want to change the mindset. Yeah, that's part of it. But how often have we had a thought and then the thought kind of starts and then the narrative starts to run and the horse is out of the barn and you're already done? We have a short period of time to get behind what is triggering the narrative. And that's what I work with. I help you get behind the story, the narrative, the thoughts, to the foundational thought that starts before the narrative. It is stored in the nervous system. It is stored in within us. Let me explain. It's I grew up, and with my family, I had the experience at maybe around 2. With my mother, we all do this. All children want to learn their independence, and they start to test the boundaries at around 2 years of age. We start to kind of say, I don't want to do that, and we throw a tantrum because we didn't get what we want, and then we get into trouble. Depending upon how the parent shows up, how the consequences were delivered. I'm not saying that it is gentle parenting, but it's how we're being rejected, how we're being dismissed, or how we're being told no. No is okay. Rejection is okay. It is how it is experienced within me. It's the feeling that will make the difference, that will make me either go right or left. Depending upon what I want to make sure that I never ever repeat again, will determine how I will show up moving forward in life. It is really that simple. But finding out what is underneath that entire behavioral pattern and help you rewrite it, that's what I do. It's a nervous system regulation to reframe what it is that is triggering the brain to get the storyline running. So imagine this. I help you reframe the thought that would have triggered to your brain to all of a sudden trigger on a different synapses within your brain. Then you're automatically showing up differently.
I feel that. And you mention things that happen from a very young age and in childhood. And sometimes, especially to high achievers, these may seem frivolous or intangible. And even the fact of like dealing with conflict with your parents, like rejection, But these things can manifest and plant seeds in the most unexpected of ways. Going down this path and doing some of this work, remember a time where I was in the car with my mom. And this was in the mid 90s, and there were still cassette tapes around at this time. And we just got this new cassette tape, this easy listening music called Pure Moods. I imagine. There's a song, I think by the band called Enigma, called The Return to Innocence, that came on, which has this Native American chant starting out. And I'm listening to it and I'm kind of feeling it. And I ask my mom, what's this song about? What does it mean? And she said something along these lines where she said, you got to enjoy your childhood while it lasts. And I think it was a perfectly innocent moment. And somehow how I responded to that, which was, your time is running out and you better get this right, which I'm sure there were probably some other moments that planted this seed before it. But this one, I felt a particular kind of horror as a young child, like almost seeing the sands of my life slipping between my fingers and trying to just grip onto it. And that drove me in many ways. And I think in some ways it was a good thing. I think it motivated me to travel as much as I did. In a lot of my 20s, I went all over the world. It motivated me to achieve and to create, but always from this place of trying to grip the sand, which in the long run, and especially at the level of people that you're talking about serving, it becomes more harmful than it does helpful. It's probably good in at least a net positive in the very early stages to help get you off the ground and get you off the couch and going and making the thing. But there comes a time where this pattern no longer serves you. And just my comment on this is, it doesn't have to be a parent doing something right or wrong, and these seeds are planted. And I guess the thing that I'm coming away with after reflection like this is, it's impossible for anyone to escape this experience. And it shapes us. But it sounds like when we can learn to re-relate to it and channel it and control it, it can be our greatest strength.
Indeed.
Let me read back some of the pieces that I've been gathering about the symptoms of this problem for the people that you work with. There's a ton of pressure to show up with so many people depending on you. And a lot of times this pressure causes you to snap, causes anger, pushing hard, blaming others, and trying to do better. Yes. And though you're probably a harsh leader with a lot of your team and maybe even your family, you're harshest with yourself.
Yes.
And this causes not just problems with your team, but it causes problems with your family. And problems in one area always influences the other.
Yes.
And probably also manifests as health problems in some ways if we don't take good care of our mindset and our spirituality and just the basics of our health, which, being in situations like this, we often neglect those things and put them off till later, which I think is another symptom that wasn't really described. But when I get to X, I'll finally do Y. But every time we get to whatever X was, there's 3 more goals on the horizon keeping us from doing what we really want to do.
Yes. Yep.
Amazing.
Absolutely right. One of the physical responses that typically will show up can be headaches, heart palpitations, acid reflux, cramps in the legs. It is even showing up as dizziness, loss of hunger, or maybe even overeating, because you're going to have to find comfort somewhere. Drinking, drugs are also some of the things that we use to help numb all of this out.
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular time when you were experiencing a lot of these things and the emotional toll?
Yes.
When specifically in time and maybe even in a place, a Tuesday afternoon, were you most affected by these patterns that we've been describing?
I was sitting in my living room And I was looking at my husband and I was saying, something's wrong. And I was literally collapsing in the chair. I just noticed that something was not right anymore. I couldn't move. I could not really speak. And he was able to get me to the car. We got to the ER. And within a couple of hours, I had lost the entire ability to walk and move anything on my right side. My face was numb, my arms were numb, my leg was numb. I was paralyzed on my right side.
Describe the living room that you were in when this first occurred. What did the living room look like?
The living room was really kind of alive. It almost felt like a cocoon that I could fall into. I literally thought I was going to die. The light was coming in, it was nice and green. I really wasn't afraid, other than, something's wrong. And the chair was really comfy.
As you were driving in that car, you lost a lot of motor function, but I imagine that your mind was working quite overtime. What were some of the inner thoughts that were occurring to you on the drive to the ER?
Well, since I've already had a near-death experience before, it was like, is this how I'm going to go out? Um, it was more of a, wow, being a triathlete, not being able to use my right side, it was really kind of scary. What was I going to do? How was I going to make a living? How would I even make things work? So yeah, it was, what was wrong? How was I going to fix this? Yeah.
How did you find yourself in this situation?
Define, how did I find myself here?
Like we've been discussing, there are likely some patterns and choices and narratives in your own life that this was a message from your body and your soul inviting you to correct yourself. What were
Yes.
the choices and narratives that led you to this moment?
Well, I had a life with a lot of stress. I was working a sales job that I hated. I was going through domestic violence, lawsuits, trials, trying to stay safe. I was trying to get my work permit approved. The Violence Against Women's Act was helping me out. A lot of pro bono. It's one of those situations where that if I didn't move the boulder up the mountain, it wouldn't move. Nothing would get done. So everything was on me to get everything done. I needed to follow up with the attorney. I needed to follow up with the authorities. I needed to do all of it in order for anything to get done. And my body just reached a point of enough is enough.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I imagine there was a time of almost an opposite frequency where you were not pushing up a boulder by yourself, but you were able to delegate. You were able to show up authentically. You were aligned with your mission and your vision and your goals. And clearly here today, you are able-bodied as far as I can tell. And so you were able to recover in some of those ways and explore and experience a more complete life. And I'm certain that this came after a process that was profound and challenging. When is a moment of equal, precise time and location that is the opposite of this that for you?
That would need to be about 2 years ago. April of last year, April 2 years ago. That is when I was okay. I need to use all of this, everything that I've learned, how I got through, how I managed to come out on the other side, how I managed to survive and reclaim not something, but myself. And it was in the exact same room, different chair, but in the exact same space. And it was almost as if you were to, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost as if you die and are reborn. You come out on the other side and you kind of leave the shell behind and you step into a new space. And you just know this is what you need to do. And you start following the path. It's okay, how do I do this? How do I help others get this?
What were some of the signs you had gone through this process of taking care of your body, and I'm sure your physicality was better. But and you've stated that something has changed. But how did you know, or what was reflected? How did this moment get triggered or inspired that, wow, I've come such a long way. Look at how my life is different. Especially, I appreciate being in the same room and a slightly different chair. And what is the evidence that my life has transformed and is so far removed from this first story?
The only way I can explain that is it's an internal realization. You reach a point where the external validation it's nice, but it's not necessary. The external confirmation of anything is, again, nice, but it's not what I'm striving for. And I think one of the most profound moments that I had is that was almost something just kind of showed up. It's just one of the real realization of moments was sitting in the chair and having this moment. But what really shook me to say, no, you have to do this, is when I had a near death experience. I literally saw the car accident. And it was just God's grace that I was not in that accident.
This happened probably, was this the near-death experience you were referencing before this other story?
No, it was actually later. I didn't realize it until right now when we were talking about it, because it was such a jolt that it was obvious that I was kind of not following the path and I need to get back on track. And that happened about a year ago. So those two after each other said, yes, I devoted myself to make this my path, and I almost focused on doing it, but I wasn't fully committed.
So this was your second near-death experience?
Yes.
So you had this car accident, and then you committed to the path. And can you tell me about a moment, maybe a little bit later, where you on this path and having this inner work, or maybe somebody reflected it, or a moment of not necessarily an external validation, but a confirmation that I'm on the path?
Yeah, everything started to just work.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference in between if you're really fully on the path and you know that you're doing the right thing versus you're doing it. I don't know how else to explain it. There is an internal realization. There is this reassurance. There is this confirmation, because path, it just starts to fall into place. It is no longer an uphill battle. It is no longer a fight. The universe is aligned. The path is aligned. You think you have a choice, but you don't have a choice because the choice has already been made for you. So as long as you're resisting, it's going to be challenging. But when you surrender and follow the path, you know that you're doing the right thing.
Makes sense. And so I'm still digging for something specific here. And you surrendered to the path. Things were falling into place. What was something incredible that fell into place for you around this time? Just one sign of like, wow, this is actually working. This is something that I should be doing, not just for myself, but for others.
It was probably the testimonial that I received from my client.
Tell me about it.
It was to hear from somebody else how profound an impact it has had on their life and how much they value what they walk away with. And it happened on that very same day.
Which day? The car accident?
Yes. It happened on the very same day I got that call, and she said, I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for you.
Before the car accident?
After. Yeah. That is that there's something to be said about what I can do for myself is one thing, but to know that it really made an impact, not just for me, but for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just started coming, and I had 5 new testimonials within a month after that. And they all said the same thing. To reclaim yourself and refocus all of it, to really rise and come out on the other side. It's just...
What kind of car were you driving?
I was driving the Chevrolet Malibu.
Mm. What color?
White.
Where were you going?
I was going to my office in Scotts Valley.
What day of the week was it?
Must have been a Tuesday or a Thursday.
In the morning?
Yes.
And you mentioned you saw yourself from a third person experiencing the accident.
Because the white pickup truck literally, and me underneath.
So were you aware? So
Yes.
you had experience with this, and there's some kind of ethereal awareness of what's happening, what was going through your head, quote unquote, at the time.
It's not my time. It's not my time. It's literally the thought. It's like, it's not my time. So that's the only thing that went through my mind.
And you were relatively okay.
Yes.
And then you went back home to receive the testimony, or what happened after that?
I just went to the office in Scotts Valley.
You just went to your office. No big deal.
Yes.
All right. Would you like to hear your story?
Yes.
Something's wrong. I remember sitting in my living room, this living room that was alive, a cocoon of green light, a comfy chair I was sitting in, the place that was my one sanctuary in this world, my one place of peace. And I said it, something's wrong. Now, when I was saying it, I meant I was having a physical experience. All of a sudden, I was collapsing in my chair. All of a sudden, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Things were really getting out of control. But at the same time, when I was saying that, I was saying something so much more. My life had become something that I barely recognized. It was a life of stress, of working a job that I hated, going through domestic violence, lawsuits, trials, trying to stay safe, and me having to do everything, force everything on my own. And it's what I had been doing my whole life. And now I couldn't even get out to the car to go to the hospital. My husband carried me, put me in the seat, and buckled me in. And as I'm staring through, my mind is still racing. Is this how I'm going to go? How am I going to live the rest of my life? I'm a triathlete. I love moving. I love running. What's this going to happen? How am I going to work? How am I going to make a living? How am I going to keep doing all these things that have piled up for so long? How am I going to fix it? And it was under the lights of the ER, and the intensity and the beeping of the hospital machines, that I knew that something needed to change. Something needed to be fixed, much more than just whatever physical thing was happening to me. I needed something to go deeper than just working harder. I needed to not just change my mindset by force, by grit, but by getting deeper into understanding what was actually triggering my mindset at the first place. I wanted to have a feeling of peace, of aliveness, and lead and decide from that. I wanted a way that was both simple and powerful, that would help me rewire the patterns that had got me to where I was and reframe it into what I wanted. I wanted to transform. I started studying everything I could about the mind, the body, the spirit, and how to make lasting transformation, how to rewire these patterns. And it took a long time and a lot of costly and painful mistakes. And slowly, I began to rebuild myself, my body, my health. I began to change my career. I began to see the world from a different perspective. And in some ways, I started to help and serve people with these same tools. I can remember one day sitting in the same living room, feeling different in some ways, but also knowing somewhere deep down that I was still playing small, that I was still in that same pattern. And I got into my car, started driving to my office to help out my clients that morning, and thinking about the strange moments that I've led while driving cars. And in my white Chevy Malibu, I look up and I see a huge pickup truck barreling towards me, and in an instant, I'm not in my car, but somehow above it, looking down and realizing I've detached from my body. Is this my moment? Is this when I'm going to go? Is this how I'm going to go? I've been close to death so many times in this life. It's strange, the familiarity, and I realize that this isn't my moment. Miraculously, I wake up relatively unharmed, despite my car being destroyed, and I make my way to my office, a little bit shaken, but full of gratitude. And that's when I hear it. I hear a message from somebody I had been working with, and they told me how profound these same systems that I had been working so hard to rebuild myself were from them. And I remember her telling me, I might not be here if it hadn't been for you. And I absolutely agreed. I might not be here if it hadn't been for everything that I have got through. And somehow, after all this, I'm living in a life that's alignment. I'm showing up more authentically, sharing my mission, my vision, my goals. And I realize here, after one more miracle, maybe one too many miracles, that I have work to do, and I have reclaimed myself, and I have dedicated my life to giving back the gifts that I have received so many times by helping you reconnect with your life and your vision and what you really should be doing. Now, for me, it was several near-death experiences that got me to wake up. For you, the messages might be smaller, something from distress at work, at home, but you know the symptoms and the pain of living out of alignment. And no matter what it is, the way through is the same, not by working harder, not by trying to think harder or improve your mindset, but by going deep into the core and creating that feeling and sense of peace from within to lead from that, no matter what's happening inside you or the world around you. And that's what I'm here to help you create today.
That's amazing. Yes. I wish I had written it down. Yep, you nailed it.
Thank you.
That is profound. Thank you so much.
It's a sort of words of affirmation to have your story arranged and curated. And I think in a similar way to what you describe with the people that you work with, we have such a relationship with our stories and our moments that has a lot of emotions related to them. And it's hard to know what to really emphasize and what's most important and how to arrange it in a way. And having somebody help shape it for you to simplify it, but to bring out the best in it, I think is a unique way to help people relate to themselves more profoundly as well.
Yes, because it has a completely different, profound impact hearing it back and how it's being heard. That to me was, wow, yeah, you heard it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. That was a gift.
Thank you. I'm honored. Well, Dharma, do you have any closing thoughts for us today, and where can we go to learn more about you?
Well, you can find me on Substack. I am putting my website together, which is going to be dharmafunder.com. I'll send you all the links. But I also have, you can book a complimentary with me, free of charge, 30 minutes. And then I have an upcoming mastermind in August, and it will repeat monthly. So if you miss it in August, it will repeat on a regular cadence.
Lovely. And I don't think there was a closing thought within that. What can you do to close us out today?
What I can do to close you out today would be close your eyes real quick and just notice where in your body you have any kind of attention. Allow yourself to just connect with it. Take a deep breath and ask, what's the feeling? Not the thought, not the narrative, but what's the feeling? What is it telling you? Maybe it is scared. Maybe it's saying, hear me. And just acknowledge the feeling. I hear you. Not outside, but inside. I hear you. And if you feel ridiculous and weird doing this, just know that your body is noticing that you are attempting to listen. The more we listen, the more it will talk.
Beautiful closing thought. Dharma, thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.
Thank you for having me.